당기 가래 저와 신내들이 지셔봐. 나왔어.
그렇죠.
그래. 다 템바 탐지 예매도 또 배워. 순라만을 당와도 제외 저 예외 공부 때라던 예배 저. 다 니주친 뭐야. 랑가스로 배워서 다 템바 탐지 예매도 또 하도 배이나 아니 지금 비가 가서 그래. 그래. 다 템바 탐지 예와매 봐도 봐. 다가는 신기 지금 비 순라만을 당와도 차와. 근데 먼저 이나 아니 산제기 숨기 식신이야다 배나 다 매봤어 대봐 다도 유바 그봐 아니 지금 대바 수수 원도 체네 다가는 신난된 주도마 가지고 그랬다 소소소리야 하더니 비게 치료된도 주바 가브리다니 산잠발라 치료된 가지고 치료된도 매봐 그봐 어다 근데 뭔가 소요로 봐 제단 뒤인도잖아 아니 미배 초주 그러봐 디쳐이나 아니 추봉을 서야기 내가 전부 열어 봐. 어쨌든 되네. 제단 때 다가난 신기 지비게 다 가지고 그래. 랭가드네 비게 랑원을 줘봐서 랑원을 못 줘봐서 어다 되네 비게 다 내주 망고지기 토할이야. 봐. 제단 때 인도잖아. 산지 슝기 용수 쪽부터 찾아 때체네. 봐. 아니 비게 로존 세토베이나 로존 제베 톤의 고아 용수소 주지토나 담바 산지기 숭 식신리면다고 이네 던다르면도 자원이네 요마네 그러봐 제가 아니 제종가버 침비 슝라 초리라 가서 슝라 초리와다라고 그래 꾸나마지 가서 슝라 초리와다라고 그래 심발마지 꾸나 십도 장스 드송요래 제가 대인도산에 가시고 그래 첩 때보다 지금 그게 커도 식신을마 대비체 아니 그게 십자체는 장고에 대 개천부르스 어디다 송래 지난 뒤에 맞죠 이나 그 식신 개와인데 개와를 삼바이나 아니 개와 공부 가서로 단예 도구요 말아 안 대민도 내가 주봉은 레세 사이 양가 첨부요 그래
The last thing which we spoke about in the last lesson was the four greatnesses of the Lamrim tradition. So the first one allows us to see that all the teachings of the Buddha have no contradiction, and that all the teachings can help us to see the meaning of the Buddha and to refrain from help us to see to not do any negative actions. So these four greatnesses are very important because the Buddha taught many teachings, and if we look at these teachings, just from a flat point of view, without on the surface, it seems that there are contradictions in what the Buddha taught. For example, the selflessness, this philosophy of the lack of self. In some of the Buddhist teachings, it seems that they show that some they propound self, while the others propound selflessness. So there seem to be contradictions between what the Buddha taught. Sometimes he taught it from one way, and in another context he taught it in another way. So it's not only that, but also when we look at the selflessness, this philosophy, we use different terms to analyze this way of thinking. For example, one term which is used is existing from its own side or not existing from its own side. So these terms are used. Some ways of thinking, they teach that the self is actually existent, while others teach that it is not truly existent. So these were all taught by the Buddha. So again, it seems that there are contradictions in the Buddha's teachings. Not only this, but also when we look at the philosophy which is called mind-only school, or the Chittamatra, which teaches that the subjects do not exist externally. So this is contradicted in other different schools of philosophy. So on the surface, it seems that there are contradictions in what the Buddha taught. So someone who studies the Buddhist teachings can be confused at times, and even to take a mistaken step. So the Buddha taught many teachings. It is very difficult to study everything that the Buddha taught in a deep way, in a way that we can see that there are no contradictions. But all these teachings of the Buddha are meant to lead one student from one state until enlightenment. So we can use all these teachings from the initial point and finally to get to the state of Buddhahood, to enlightenment. So the Lama Rim tradition is what helps us to do this. And Lama Tzong Khapa said in one of his verses that the way that we need to approach this is to do it without being biased. He said that we shouldn't just stick to the level of the words, but rather go to the meaning which is beyond the words. And if we can have an attitude, develop an attitude that's unbiased, which doesn't is not satisfied with just what is said on the surface, on the words, but rather looking for the meaning, then we can see that there are no contradictions in what the Buddha said, in what he taught, and we can see that these instructions are like personal instructions for our practice. So in this way we can see what the meaning of the Buddha, and we can avoid negative actions. And the meaning of the negative action in this context is to abandon the Dharma. In general, when we look at all the treatises that were written on the basis of the sutras of the Buddha, they already have all this knowledge, but it is not enough that they just have the knowledge, these treatises, but rather we need to analyze them, we need to think about them, so that for us in a personal way we feel that there are no contradictions in what the Buddha taught, that we feel that all these instructions, these external instructions, become our inner instructions. They become like our personal guidance for our practice, and in this way we will not arise a negative action like abandoning the Dharma.
가서 네가 되게 어때 안에지 이게 그놈 아주 제대로 되게 잘못했어. 아따냐 나랑 그 내야 이때도 동네도 가고요. 내야 가지고 내도 되게 되게 좋고요. 동네도 또 가리는 시험 보고요. 이디 공부요. 이 공부한 그냥 그게 가지고 동네도 또 주변에 정보도 가지고 또도 생규 맞을 때 내가 진짜 제기다 생규 맞을 때 아니 말로한테 아니 지금 샘플이야. 또 다시 되지. 오늘 전에 그게 지금 아주 또 다시 되는 사이에서. 봐. 그래서 이제다 하다보도 아주 맞을 때 안에 내가 갖고 있는 거. 내가 잘하고 있는 거. 당에 처음부터 또 파되고요. 너에 비해 지난해 뭐지? 어제 좋은 날씨 좀 가지고 내는 더 아니에요. 내년에 그거다. 아, 오늘 주 이거 하고 싶어요. 하고 싶은 거지. 여보야, 제가 이렇게 생각해요.
אז אחרי ההקדמה הזאת שבה הדגשנו את החשיבות של
having explained the importance of the motivation that will be free from the three faults and to develop the 6 considerations which Rinpoche spoke about in the previous teaching. So we need to have as pure as possible a motivation which is free from the worldly dharmas of wishing to be rich and to have fame, etc. We should think that that listening to these teachings is important for me personally. So it's not only that us disciples should have this proper motivation, but also the Lama should develop this good motivation with a wish to be of benefit for the other, to have an altruistic motivation. So the Lama also shouldn't have the wish for fame, for wealth. Also the Lama should think of wishing to benefit others. So both of our sides, the disciple and the Lama, should develop, should have the same pure motivation. And within the process, we need to make sure that we don't have any faults in our motivation. Because on the fundamental basis, we acknowledge the fact that since beginningless time until now, we have been in a state which is of suffering. And often this suffering is immeasurable, unbearable. We search for permanent happiness, continuous happiness. But we still can't find this state. We don't achieve this state which is free from suffering and which abides in permanent happiness. So we need to look at the causes and conditions which bring the happiness and which create the suffering. If we do not search for these causes which bring happiness, if we don't understand the causes and conditions which bring suffering, then we will not be able to abandon our suffering and to attain happiness. In a concise way, we can say that the reason that we're still in the state of time after time in cyclic existence, experiencing this suffering, the cause of it is not having a tamed mind. This is the primary cause. And when we acknowledge this fact, then we understand that our responsibility, our mission, is to transform our mind. So that the way that we form our mind would be diminishing the causes that bring us suffering and expanding or developing the causes that bring us happiness. If we do not do that, we will abide continuously in the same state like we are now, which is time after time experiencing the things which we do not want to experience and not getting what we want. So forming the mind, transforming the mind has to be done stage after stage. It will not happen in one day. So this is our aim, to work on our mind, to transform it, to restrain it, so that it brings us more happiness. It's very important to make sure that we not only know how to use the words and the terms, that we don't only focus on the words, but rather we focus on the meaning. And to focus on the meaning, it means to apply them in our own personal practice. Because if we only focus on the words and we don't apply it within our own practice, it will not bring any benefit. Since beginningless time until now, in all the cyclics, we've been through all cycles of existence in all realms, under the power of the afflictions of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And these negative states of mind, or states of mind which cause us to create negative actions, and therefore we accumulate negative karma. This is how when we encounter particular objects, like something which is appealing, then immediately attachment arises within our mind. While when we encounter an object which is not attractive, then immediately aversion or anger arises in our mind. So these reactions are arising from automatically when we come in contact with different objects. So this thing is just like a disease. It's a deep disease. It's not that we can take a medicine, like 1 or 2 medicine, and then we will cure from the illness. But rather, we need to take the medicine continuously for long term. And in order to cure ourselves from this deep and difficult disease of the afflictions, we need to make sure that our perspective too is long term. Not to focus on what we can get out of it today or tomorrow. If we think, if I do practice or meditation today, what will I get out of it? But rather to think long term, not to think of the benefit, which is just today or tomorrow. Our perspective, our aims, our goals should be long term. So the masters from the Kadampa tradition, they themselves said that the perspective also always has to be long term rather than short term. All the activities that we do on a daily basis should have a long term perspective. And if our perspective is long term, then we can progress step after step, stage after stage, to a state where we will not be under the influence of the afflictions. So we said that when we look at the gradual stages of enlightenment, then there are four general outlines which we follow, and until now we have spoken about the 3 first outlines, and now we're talking about the 4th outlines, which is how to develop the right state of mind, which would lead us to enlightenment. And the first point is how to rely properly on a spiritual teacher. This is the root of all the path, all the good qualities which we need to develop in order to attain enlightenment. And then so please open your text, and we're going to read now the first verse. What page is it? Let's see. So it's on page 30. So the first verse reads, "The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect."
예외신이야. 그 거다. 너 어떤 데가 해야 돼? 다시 먹고 싶지. 차례 이거를. 다시 일단에 이제 레버스부터 레저시어 쓰고 와. 빨리 동네 보내는데 몽구이톤 이제 몽구이톤. 너 이제 몽구도 무슨 소리야 되잖아. 다음까지 아니 까지 제수 잡아. 다음은 시기에 예외신이 그게 너 보이는데 손이 대로 이게 이제 뉴스인데 너 이게 시에 아니 이게 근데 뭐 굳이 보내 그래도 올라가야다 아니 그거 친구 영토야 어떻게 되게 영토야 그래서 이제 아니 내 좋아이나 아니 대신에 선주 그래서 선주니 이거네 대로 친구요
So in the first verse it says that all the good qualities arise from relying on the pure and perfect teacher. So this means that all our good qualities, the basis of all our good qualities is by relying properly on a teacher. So it can be called Guru devotion, but it actually means relying properly on the spiritual teacher. So like the text explains, we are requesting that to be blessed, to rely properly on, with great respect on the teacher. So we want to develop the correct attitude that sees how all the good qualities which we will develop in the future will be developed on the basis of the spiritual teacher, by relying on the spiritual teacher properly. And in order to do this, we need to apply great effort. It is not something which is simple or easy. It requires a lot of effort. We need to put effort in a variety of ways. For example, part of the things which entail relying on a correct teacher is to recognize the qualities, the good qualities of the teacher in his body, speech, and mind. To remind ourselves of the kindness of the spiritual teacher, and to rely on the teacher properly with our way of thinking and also with our body. Another thing which we need to practice in is not to pay attention in the faults of the teacher which we perceive, but rather of the good qualities of his body, speech, and mind. To remind ourselves of the qualities of the mind of the teacher, like the way he cares for others, his knowledge, his ability to do different actions. So all these things require a lot of effort and a lot of thought. We're thinking of the reasons how to develop this devotion, so that we can acknowledge the positive qualities of the teacher, his kindness, his care for others, and of wisdom. So that's why we say, by applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect.
Lama
So everybody says, I practice the Dharma. We tell others, I'm a Dharma practitioner. We tell others, and we also think it to ourselves that we're practitioners, we're Buddhists. But if we look at our understanding of how the Dharma abides, of what it is really, it is actually quite difficult for us to define it. It is difficult for us to know the real qualities and how it abides. And if we check upon ourselves, this difficulty of ours, this indicates that actually we need to first learn what the Dharma is, how it abides, so that we can practice it properly. And then we think, who is the one who really knows how the Dharma abides? What is the Dharma? And this is the Lama. There is no other person than the Dharma, than the Lama, than the spiritual teacher who can teach me the Dharma properly. So in this way we understand the great importance of relying on a spiritual teacher, because the teacher serves as the basis of all the good qualities which we will develop. It's not only that we want to rely on a spiritual teacher, but we also need to make sure that the person who we rely on as our spiritual teacher is qualified, that he has got all the characteristics of a spiritual teacher. Otherwise, if we rely on someone who does not have these qualities, we will not be able to progress. So we find a spiritual teacher who is qualified, who has the So we rely on the spiritual teacher so that we can practice the Dharma properly. If we do not rely on the teacher properly, make sure that the spiritual teacher who we rely on is qualified. And in order to make sure that, we need to ask ourselves in what context it can be qualified from the point of view of Vinaya, or from the point of view of the Tantra, the secret mantra, or from the point of view of the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta. So different teachers have got different qualities according to what we are practicing. So here with Lamrim, the gradual stages of enlightenment, we are relying on a verse which gives the qualities of the teacher, and these qualities are being disciplined, the second one is being serene, the third quality is being thoroughly pacified, and the fourth quality is having the wealth of scriptural knowledge. The fifth quality is knowing wisdom, having wealth of wisdom, and the sixth one is having scripture and realization of good qualities, surpassing those of the students. The seventh quality is being skilled in leading the disciples and skilled in teaching. The eighth quality is teaching, which is being completely motivated by love. The ninth quality is willing to accomplish others' welfare. And the last one is never being tired to give teachings, which means that the teacher never gives up on the students. So these are the 10 qualities or 10 characteristics that a qualified teacher should have in the Lamrim tradition. So we spoke about the 10 characteristics which a qualified Lama should have, and the first one was being disciplined, and this relates to having the training of morality among the 3 trainings. So the first characteristic that a teacher should have derives from the training in morality. The second quality which a teacher should have is being serene, and this relates to the training in concentration. And the third quality which a teacher should have is being thoroughly pacified, and this relates to the training in wisdom. So the training of wisdom comprised of knowledge of the three baskets. The fourth quality is having wealth of scriptural knowledge. This one is the one of having knowledge of the three baskets. And the teacher should have a wealth of knowledge, which is the three relating to the three trainings and the three trainings of concentration, morality, and discipline, and wisdom. And they also need to have the realization driven from the practice. So if they can see reality as it is, it's great, but if not, at least that they're on the way towards realizing emptiness. So the spiritual teacher should also be skillful in leading the disciples and should have skills in the teachings. So they need to teach in accordance with the students, and the teachers should also have true concern for their disciples. And they shouldn't have the wish to get something out of the teachings, but rather a true care and concern for the welfare of the disciple. Otherwise, if they do not honestly care about the disciple, they will not be able to teach properly. They should overcome their frustrations in teaching. They need to work hard, and they shouldn't be willing to give it up, but rather with great energy to work for the welfare of the disciples. So these are the 10 characteristics which are necessary for the spiritual teacher. We have mentioned the 10 qualities of the spiritual teacher, and if you think does each and every spiritual teacher have to have these 10 qualities? So Rinpoche says, of course, if they have all these qualities, it is great, but it isn't necessary that they have definitely each and every one of these qualities. If we can find a teacher who has a third or even 2/3 of these qualities, then it's good. In particular, what is most necessary is when we look at the first 3 qualities of a teacher that are related to the 3 trainings. These are the ones which are completely necessary. The minimum thing is keeping morality.
Lama Tzong Khapa, Lama Tzong
So it's not only that the spiritual teacher should be qualified, but also the disciple who relies on the spiritual teacher should be qualified. So what are the necessary characteristics for a disciple? Then Rinpoche stated from the 400 verse treatise of Aryadevas, which is said, it is said that one who is impartial, intelligent and diligent is a vessel for listening to the teaching. So to say what are these qualities, just to make clear again, or to be impartial or unbiased. The second one is intelligent, and the third one is diligent. When we rely on such a teacher who is qualified, then we rely on them in thought and in action. So that we do these are the two ways to rely on a teacher in thought and in action. And the way to rely on a teacher in thought is by first of all thinking of their qualities, thinking of their good things, of body, speech and mind, and to remind ourselves the kindness of the teacher. So this is the way to develop our faith and devotion towards the spiritual teacher. And in action, the way to rely on a teacher is by offering them help in their immediate surrounding, and to give offerings, and also to do what they say, to actually apply their advice. And this is the supreme way to rely on a spiritual teacher. While we're doing this, we get the 6 preparatory practices which Lama Tzong Khapa explained. So Atisha had a few teachers, and the main teacher which he relied on was Sri Lingpa, who gave the 6 preparation practices. So when we do these 6 preparation practices, they are what we rely on while we're doing our personal practice. So when we sit for our personal practice, this is the way to get ready for our practice. So the first thing that we do is we clean well the place where we're staying, and we neatly arrange all the representations of the Buddha's body, speech and mind. And after that, we need to obtain we put the representations of the body, speech and mind, which we wish to develop. For example, we use statues of Manjushri, of Avalokiteshvara, Lama Tzong Khapa. These statues, they help us to remember the qualities which we want to develop in ourselves. We arrange the representations, the qualities of the body, speech and mind on an altar. And then we arrange offerings. We offer things that are pleasing for the senses, things that our senses would like, things that are pleasing, things which are pleasing for the eye, for the ears, which are pleasant sounds, things which are beautiful and are tasty, that have a nice smell. For this reason, we offer incense so that it's pleasing for the smell, and we offer lights, things that are beautiful for the eyes. So we arrange all these offerings neatly, and we need to make sure that they have been offered in a way that is no deceit. So to make sure that we have got these objects of offerings in a pure way, and also when we offer them, that it doesn't have an intention of deceiving anyone. So we could think that we want to impress people with a beautiful way of our arrangement. But when these people are not around, we will not keep the place clean, and we would do it only externally, just to impress others. So the way to offer is without having this deceptive attitude, and then we need to sit in a comfortable position, on a comfortable cushion. So it is often explained as the sevenfold posture of Vairochana. Have it in a comfortable way. And then we set our motivation while taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. And then we take refuge, generate bodhicitta, and we also have to visualize the merit field in front of us. So we visualize that in front of us, we actually, the Buddha actually abides, and all the lineage of the teachers who come down from the Buddha until our root teacher. So it's not only the teachers, but also the yidams, the Buddhas, the bodhisattvas, the pharaohs, the kinis, that all this merit field is all sitting in front of us. So this is what we visualize, and then in front of them, this is now the fifth point, is we offer the 7 limbs practice, which includes the crucial points of accumulation and purification. The 6th point is making supplications to the field. So we have mentioned the 7 limb practice. So we visualize that the field of merit is in front of us, which help us to make the great accumulation of merit and wisdom. And we do this by doing prostrations as part of the 7 limb prayer. So we prostrate to the objects of merit in front of us. Then we make offerings, and then we admit all our negative actions. The 4th branch is rejoicing, which is being happy about all the good that we have done and others have done. And after that is beseeching them to keep and turn the wheel of Dharma, and then requesting them not to go into nirvana, not to leave our worlds. And the last branch is to make dedications with all the accumulation that it will go to enlightenment. Among the 7 branches, the most important one is rejoicing. This is the 4th branch. So it means to be happy about the positivity that oneself and others do. Lama Tzong Khapa said that by developing our rejoicing, it is one of the most supreme things that we can do, because it doesn't require much effort. It is something which we can do quite easily, and it's just being happy in the positivity that others create. It will help us to complete our accumulations in a quick way. Often, it is not that we only need to rejoice in our own positivity and our own good deeds. Sometimes it is hard for us even to be happy when others do good, when we do good, and then we're jealous and we suffer, we get kind of depressed when we see that others succeed and they become famous. So it is said that the most effective antidote to this and to help us to accumulate the accumulations, to complete the accumulations, is just rejoicing in others' good qualities and successes. There is a little story that is connected to the Buddha's life. And it is said that while the Buddha was living, there was some kind of event, and he was in the presence of a king who made grand offerings of food and possessions, and to the Buddha as well as his entourage of many monks. So there was like someone who was looking at all the good qualities, all the good things that the Buddha has, that the king has offered. And so this beggar who was looking at the situation actually got more merits than the king himself. So Rinpoche would also like to mention that when we give offerings, we need to give the best quality of things. It's not things that, it shouldn't be things that we have stolen, or things that have been gotten through deception, or things that have very little value. We need to try to give the best quality that have come from very pure livelihoods and not from negative places. If we have forced others to give us these possessions, so in all these ways of stealing, of deception, it is wrong to give like that.
제일 많아서 지금 공부 싸웠다고 공부도 시작한다 이거는 공부 예와 공부 싸웠다. 그거 공부 싸우기에서 좀 그래서 이제는 예전에 뭐 남의 도장 뭐 샤베이가 예전 좀 두고요. 그거 한배는 우리냐는 고마이 키는 거. 한배 우리 내는 주사위는 나는 고마이 키고 말아. 어떤 디스커스.
So the last branch is that of dedication. Dedication of the roots of merits that we have created in this practice. And it is extremely important to dedicate to complete enlightenment, the supreme enlightenment. It is really important to dedicate all our merit because in this way it preserves, our merit is protected in a way that it cannot be snatched, it cannot be taken, it cannot be destroyed in the future. A mind of anger can ruin, can destroy our accumulation of merit, which has been accumulated for 3 great eons. It could be said that our dedication is like putting all our money in the bank. For example, if we have accumulated some fortune and if we leave it at home without any protective means, it could be stolen from us. Yet if we put it in the bank, then it is protected. In some way, our dedication of our accumulation of merit is safe, like our money is safe in the bank. It cannot be snatched or destroyed. So I'm just talking about it in kind of a funny way, the 7 limbs, so that to make them understandable and simplicity. When we practice the 7 branch limbs of prostrations, of sawadangchus, of offerings, the purification of our negative actions, of rejoicing, of requesting the teacher to turn the wheel of Dharma and not to pass into nirvana, and finally of dedication. In this way, we want to keep all this accumulation so that it is not harmed, and one of the things which can harm it is anger. We're going to have a little break, and we will come at the end of the break, maybe 3:30.